everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Stripped Back with Daisy Delight, where I am doing my very, very best to try and unpack the Sydney burlesque scene one rhinestone at a time. If you're listening to this episode, then congratulations. You are listening to my Road to MX Burlesque series, where every week I am interviewing either a reigning champ or somebody who is competing in this year's MX Burlesque competition. And I have here with me today Scarlett Black. How are you going, Scarlett?
Hello, good. How are you, Daisy?
Oh, I'm going well, thank you. Doing my best. It's a Saturday morning when we're recording this, so I'm a little bit sleepy, but you know what? It's good. We keep going.
Yeah, keep it pushing.
Exactly. So, I was doing a bit of a stalkity stalk of your social media profiles.
Hmm.
And you have here, so you are a burlesque and chair performer, and you combine elements of circus as well as striptease, which I think is absolutely gorgeous, and anybody who's seen you would absolutely agree your acts are stunning, and they just mesmerizing is the best word that I can use to describe them. You've performed at the Bad Girls Club, you've performed at Red Light Confidential, you've also done royalty recruits with Porcelain Alice, and
Hmm.
your Instagram bio says that you're a petting zoo.
Yeah, well, I am. I don't know if that's managed to get me around some of the shadow banning, so that might be a tip for some of the burly girlies. But yeah, I thought it was funny. Where no
um,
touching. I just say yeah, petting zoo with no touching.
yeah, you pet with the eyes
Yeah,
only.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I did
Awesome.
have in my bio at one point she bites. So it's a pretty it's an indication of look, don't touch.
I love it. All right. So I guess we'll just hop straight into it. So, what would you say was your first ever exposure to burlesque?
I would say that I had pretty kind of classic virtual exposure through Dita Von Teese. I
Ah,
think that was so many of ours growing up.
mhm.
My mum dressed in 1950s pinup and vintage when I was growing up, and she had a really extensive Wheels and Doll Baby collection.
Oh,
So I think the first time I saw Dita was in the promo material at the Wheels in Darlinghurst when I was young. So it's sort of been like 10, 11, 12 kind of thing.
wow.
Um, and then after that, I think it would have been Sky Sirens when I started going sometime during COVID.
Oh, gorgeous. What were you doing at Sky Sirens?
I started in aerial classes.
Um,
I started in Lyra and then I don't think I ever did sling. And then moved from Lyra to chair and then did a little bit of pole and burley from there.
there you go. Wait, so had you done like any circus or anything like that beforehand?
I hadn't, so I came from a weightlifting background,
Oh
very
my God.
ungraceful. Yeah. So I did that from 12 to maybe 19 or 20. Um, and then I was teaching weightlifting after that. So I had very limited dance experience. I think I did a little bit of dance in high school. But yeah, starting at Sky Sirens I would have been in my early 20s,
Oh.
was my first exposure to dance and aerial and circus.
Holy shit. I would not have expected that at all because like watching the way that you move, I just assumed that you've been doing this like like ever since you were, a kid.
No, it was a bit of a transition. I found that starting dance classes, I just didn't have that footing and that fluidity. And I found remembering choreography really challenging. And it took me a while to find a feeling of gracefulness, I think, in dance, which is maybe why I went to chair because I could fall back on some of the strength that I'd built in weightlifting. And that was a happy medium for me.
Oh, yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. But can I just say that like when I watch you on stage, you are so fluid. So it's just, I don't know, it always blows my mind when I hear about some of my favorite performers' origin stories. I'm like, oh my God, weren't you always that graceful? Like,
Well, I'm flattered, but no.
That's awesome. So there is a bit of crossover there between the strength training and chair. I mean, it totally makes sense though. Like chair is a really, really tricky medium, especially one to make look graceful and easy on stage.
Yeah, I had some really good teachers. I think when I started in Sky Sirens, it I was taught by Farrah Force and Tabitha Katz, and they really kind of started that journey for me in chair. Um, and
Legend.
yeah, it just felt like the right fit for me.
So, did you ever do burlesque at Sky Sirens then? Was that a specific?
I I didn't. I did yeah, mostly the apparatus classes, and then I started to incorporate a little bit more burlesque kind of later on in my journey. I found that a lot of the stuff that I was doing when I started performing, and even now to a degree, is very trick focused, and then there's kind of a reveal that's condensed a bit into the end.
Yeah.
Um, so now I'm trying to evolve a little bit more and add a bit more tease throughout the journey rather than just all the tricks and then whipping my titties out right at the end of the song.
Like, hey, and surprise.
Hey, and boobs. Yeah. So,
You thought that this was a regular acro act. No, it's not.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I didn't do any burley, which was I guess a bit of a wasted opportunity, you could say, at the time, but I was just so focused on aerial, and I think I found the more dance focused classes are maybe a bit scary,
Mm-mm.
and that kind of prevented me from really jumping in. So yeah, I'm kind of trying to add that more to the journey now.
Yeah, awesome. So, have you been to burlesque classes since?
I have, mainly through workshops.
Ah,
So
nice.
if there's a performer that really inspires me, like I did a workshop with Betty Bombshell recently that I really took so much from.
Oh,
Um, and it's yeah, so that's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to add. And right now I'm training at Duality, which is also very apparatus focused and dance focused, not necessarily as burly focused.
mhm.
So I'm just kind of jump on those workshops whenever they kind of come into Sydney.
Oh, gorgeous. Did you do Betty's floor work one?
I did. I
Oh,
loved it.
God, she's so incredible because I remember I was at that night, but I was in the one beforehand, and God, she's just got so much wisdom. Hey.
I know, and just even like how she moves her hands
Mm.
and just little finger flourishes and facial flourishes and just the really beautiful way of moving.
Yeah, God, she's just yeah, an absolute master of her craft, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
So, how did you get your burlesque name then? How did Scarlett Black come about?
Um, well, self-coined. um, my middle name is Scarlett. So I thought I might try and play off that. And then I was trying to look at colors. And then Scarlet Rouge was in there because I had red hair at the time.
Oh,
And
cool.
then I thought, well, what if I dye my hair? That's not going to work. So then we landed on Scarlet Black because I thought, well, I'm going to dye my hair. It was so funny now thinking about it that it's all about my hair. But yeah, it was my middle name and then Black because I thought I have a little bit of freedom. I'm not locked into the redhead identity. I can move around.
I like that. And ironically, now your hair is black.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm trying to get I've had a few people call me cat like. So I'm trying to get the black cat of burlesque as a tagline. Right. Like I'm just milking it now. I've made the collective decision inside myself that I'm gonna milk that. So
Absolutely. I mean, well, look, you're a petting zoo, right? So I mean it all
yeah, I mean it makes sense.
it ties together. Oh my God. So what was your first ever solo act then? Was it chair? Was it burlesque? Was it the fusion?
It was chair with a titty reveal at the end.
Hot.
I think it was in Club Tees in maybe 2022.
Mhm.
And it was Fire of Love by Jessie Joe Stark. And it was just a very kind of grungy, chair floor routine.
Oh, sexy, sexy. God, like how do you even like prepare for a chair performance? Like, because there's so much flexibility and strength that goes into it. Like, is there a lot of rehearsal in the lead up?
Yes. I think learning how to wing it a little bit more. So I'll have dedicated sections of routines now where I'm like, I'll see what happens. I kind of have a looser plan, but for the most part, there is a lot of a prep and practice of the choreography. It all usually comes from the song for me. Like
Mhm.
I'll hear a song that I know that I will be able to listen to over and over again and not end up hating it right before the performance.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
and
key.
then I'll try and add, like, work around a few bigger tricks and
Mm,
then add in stuff around those tricks. So there is a kind of a method to the madness
yeah.
and then some kind of winging it over the top.
That's cool. Do you wing it on like, oh my goodness, because I'm very much, I don't know much about chess. This is really fascinating to me. So like do you wing it by like putting in new tricks or like what do you do?
I think the winging it is more floor stuff.
Yeah,
The
hot.
stuff that the fluff that happens around the chair tricks. I find the chair tricks are the stuff that require the most practice. It's
Mm,
kind of like if you don't use it, you lose it. Like you kind
mm,
of lose a little bit of that balance and a bit of that core strength and that flexibility to be able to use the apparatus how you want to.
yeah.
So yeah, the winging it part is definitely the fluff on the floor, I find.
The sexy
Yeah,
stuff. I mean, it's
the
all
sexy
sexy,
stuff.
but yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you have a favorite act that you've ever done?
Um, oh, I really had an amazing time at Bruised, which was the show that Tabby produced, which was kind of her leaving show, and
Oh,
it was a bit like a Sky Sirens reunion. It was me and basically all my teachers. And the energy was just like my heart was very full at the end of the show. And I think I prepped really hard for that performance. And she wanted it to be a reflection of your identity as a performer and how that interacts with the surrounding industry. So there
oh.
was a bit more kind of meaning for it um, in that performance for me. And yeah, it just left my heart very full and happy. And then I did a bathtub routine with blood the other day, and that was also on the other side of the coin, very fun.
So very fun for different reasons.
Yes, yeah.
That's awesome. Wait, so your bruised routine, because I remember was it maybe the first or second time that I met you, but I remember we were backstage at a fresh meet once and I was like to you,
Mm-hmm.
when are you performing next? And you were telling me all about bruised. And I was like, wow, this sounds like an incredible concept for a show. Everyone must have
Mm-hmm.
really bared their souls on that stage. Hey.
They really did. They really did. And it was so nice to see people present a part of who they are as a person and as a performer. And it was very vulnerable, but so intimate.
Mm.
And the crowd was really supportive. And it was a wonderful send off for Tabby.
Oh, that's beautiful. So what part of yourself did you present on stage?
Um, I think when I was trying to come up with a concept for it, I did find it a little bit challenging. I think because a lot of the stuff that I do is very just like hot shit. Like there's not a lot of underlying storyline and meaning.
Mm.
It's very tricked and it's very kind of smutty and powerful. And to dig a little bit deeper, I kind of was reflecting on my life in the sex industry. So I'm a full service sex worker.
Mm.
And that's a massive part of my identity.
Yeah.
And I find that it really layers with who I am as a performer. So it was to the song Flesh for Fantasy by Billy Idol. And I
Mm.
kind of was leaning into, um, I guess, the power that I find in being a fantasy for people and being able
Mm.
to be something that someone needs in a moment, as a performer and as a sex worker. Um, so yeah, that was where I kind of found that meaning for me.
Yeah, God, that's so fascinating, and also really an awesome way to integrate all of your background into performance. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's kind of was able to put it all into one melting pot
Into
that
one.
felt whole, I guess.
Oh, that's lovely. And then on the flip side of that, you're in a bathtub full of blood.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I'm also I've been in the kind of the Sydney BDSM and kink scene for a while, and that was at an event called Purge, which is one of the kink events run by some friends of mine. So that's kind of
Nice.
another facet, I guess, of my personality and my personal life. That it's nice I can integrate that into my performances.
Yeah, because there's a lot of this is what I love about burlesque is that there is so much crossover between so many interesting worlds. I mean, the alternative community and the kink community and all of that. So yeah. Is there a lot of burlesque at kink events?
Um, yes, there is, and I think it like another part of that world or extension of that world is swinging. So I was working in swingers clubs for a little while, and a lot
Ah,
of burly dancers in there. I find that the burly performances at kink events are a little bit more alternative,
yeah.
and might incorporate other parts of kink, like the bathtub had an impact section.
Ah.
I've seen some rope stuff. I've seen some sideshow play as well, like Kitty Obsidian, who's fantastic.
Mm.
They were at the Purge as well, and they did Burley and Fire. Um,
Ooh.
so yeah, they're definitely kicking around in that space.
Yeah, sick. It sounds like an awesome event.
Yeah, it was great. It was really fun.
Cool. All right. So, have you ever had something happen on stage that didn't necessarily go to plan, like an onstage fail, so to speak?
Oh, I think every performance stuff doesn't go to plan.
Mm.
I think it never really, like, it's very rare, at least for me, that everything goes exactly how you want it to. I think often when I come off stage, my sentiment is, well, I didn't fall off the chair. So um, I don't think like I haven't fallen off since. So knock on wood. I don't want to do jinx myself now. Nothing really like drastically stage fail has happened so far in my career, but it's early days. It's definitely stuff that can happen. I costume fails, pasties falling off. I did half of a routine with just my whole left boob had just was out of my bra. But that's just so normal. Like that's just like, yeah, I think as long as I'm not falling off my chair, I'm kind of happy, and I haven't since. So
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I asked this question, but I've never asked this question to a chair performer before. So it's like, oh my God, if you had an onstage fail, that could literally be like go to the hospital kind of stuff.
yeah, totally. Well, I think at least like with some of the sideshow stuff, for example, sword swallowing and nail beds, there's a whole like extra load of risk that they take on. Realistically, I'm falling pretty close to the ground.
That's true.
Um, I'm not going to get impaled by anything, thankfully, but you would have to pivot to recover pretty pretty fast. But crowds are forgiving. Like I think as long as you um take it in your stride and you make it part of the routine and you continue having fun, no one gives a shit,
It's
you know.
true. It honestly is. I was talking to Aurora Riot the other day and she's just like, there aren't any fails, they're just accidental solos. And I'm like, I love that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And speaking of the sideshow stuff, would you ever consider going into that?
I would love to, but I think with sideshow, it's just so tricky to find a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
because it is super dangerous. I remember Porcelain was telling me when I was asking about, because I asked her, "Would you teach me sword swallowing?" And she said no, which is totally fair,
Yeah.
because the public liability around that is wild. But
Oh,
just saying that in the States, they give you a coat hanger and a bucket and they just say, have at it. So it's
whoa.
obviously a little bit loosey goose. But yeah, I am learning fire. My friend Sam, Mistaken Identity, is teaching me some fire. So it's been a bit stop and start because our schedules are both pretty gnarly.
Mhm.
But I have got sticks. I've got fire eating sticks. So it'll
Awesome.
it'll happen eventually. And yeah, I would love to do more sideshow stuff. But yeah, it's kind of it's old school sideshow. So to find a teacher is pretty challenging. It's almost like someone needs to pass the gauntlet, and there's a lot of history that is very highly respected in the sideshow community. So
Yeah.
getting the information is kind of tricky.
Oh,
As
yeah.
it should be though, like it's an art, and the history is very dense and it's super dangerous. So
Mm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's no, that absolutely makes total sense. And yeah, teaching someone how to swallow swords, like I don't even know how someone would go about that. It would be so, oh, yeah, no, the danger.
the danger, yeah, exactly.
So, do you have a favorite costume that you've ever worn on stage?
I was thinking about this question. I don't know if I do. Like, I don't. I'm getting some stuff made for MX that I'm excited about, but I don't think I have a favorite as such. Like, I find that my costumes, because they don't really lend themselves to the stages of reveal that happens in burlesque,
Mm.
um, they're not super elaborate. Like, it's very much like a rhinestoned lingerie set and then maybe a few little extra pieces. I think the piece that I have that took the most time for me to customize, so I think the most blood, sweat, and tears, I have a robe that's like mauve and uh, purple and kind of earthy tones, and it's rhinestoned and feathered and beaded, and that took days and days and days. Um, so that would probably be my favorite, just because it was a labor of love to make.
Absolutely.
And yeah, other than that, it's just kind of little skimpy, sparkly bits and pieces. But I think, come January after MX, I'll have kind of more costumes that have more bits and pieces that I'll love and adore.
Absolutely. Have you personally been working on those costumes or have you been collaborating with others?
A bit of both.
Mhm.
The costumes are evolving kind of as the routines are evolving.
Ooh,
Um, but yeah, getting there.
that's exciting. That's exciting. Goodness gracious. So would you consider yourself to have a signature move?
I think there's a stocking pull on the chair that I've started doing, which if something was going to be a signature, it would probably be that.
Hmm.
Um,
I think I know the
it's
one you're talking about.
yeah, yeah. So I'm kind of chucking it in everything now. But yeah, it's like a hip balance into a kind of a scorpion shoulder stand situation with
Hmm.
a stocking pull. Um, yeah, I mean, that would probably be it. I think that's something that other people usually would tell you.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I'd say that.
I remember actually I have a very vivid memory of you doing that stocking pull the first time that I ever saw it. It was backstage. I was kidding at a Peaches and Cream, and I remember standing backstage, and it was like me and Bella Baby Doll and Miss Marceline, and we were all just staring at you, and I'm just like,
Oh,
holy shit, my brain was just like exploding. I'm like, how is she so beautiful and graceful, and how?
God.
Like, it was
Thank you. Yeah, it's a
unbelievable.
bit of I kind of hold my breath when I do that trick a little bit because it's the chair's in my rib cage, so I can't
Oh,
really breathe. And then I'm twisted, and then I'm also trying to, because the stockings that I use are the ones that have the grippy inside, so I can't really get my finger under it super easily to get it off. So there's a lot, there's a lot happening when I'm doing that and trying not to fall off.
oh, God. And there's like all of that going on in your head. Meanwhile, what we see is just like something beautiful, and we're like, wow, like we would never know.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that that's I'm glad that you don't smell the struggle on me when I'm doing that.
Now, who would you consider to be your biggest influence in dance in general?
I think there's so many people that inspire me, so many of my peers. I think Betty Bombshell, I
Mm.
love. Juniper Fox, I love. I think her floor work is insane. Cora Noir, also an
Oh,
incredible dancer.
gorgeous.
Um, yeah, Porcelain Alice has
Mm.
been a massive inspiration for me. I think really held my hand through royalty recruits, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And your royalty recruits routine was beautiful. What was it like collaborating with her on that?
It was good. I think she gave me a lot of like creative. Well, I guess that's the process is you get a lot of creative autonomy, and I think there was a point in uh, the concept development where I'd kind of come up with something because I wanted to challenge myself, and it was leaning a little bit more into um, kind of like the not comical, but I guess musical theatre y side that burlesque can take.
Hmm.
Um, and I wanted to work on my characterization as a performer
Yeah.
and my stage presence. And I thought, okay, well, I'll pick something that I love because I love musical theatre, but I can't act. So I was like, maybe I can work something out. And then I kind of pivoted more to, okay, but what would Scarlett do? And how can I take this concept and make it more in line with guess the character that I already have.
Hmm.
Um, and she just really backed me, and
Yeah.
she said, you know, I love that you looked at it from the point of view of, okay, that's great. We want to work on characterization, but what would Scarlett do?
Mm, mm.
And try and not feel like I need to reinvent myself. And she was really supportive in that process.
Yeah, I love that. Just still wanting to expand yourself, but still being true to who you are.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's really cool. Awesome guidance. Now, speaking of guidance, do you have any advice for new performers?
I was thinking about, I was when I was looking at this question, the thing that kind of stuck out for me, reflecting on my own journey, was my imposter syndrome just runs rife in my body throughout this whole process.
Mm,
Um, so I think as a new performer, just really backing yourself and your art and producing things because you love them and because they excite you. I think that's the most authentic stuff that people can really feel. Like I struggle, but as a new performer, feeling um, like I belong in spaces and the things that I'm producing are worthy of being in these spaces around so much talent.
mm,
So I think as a new performer, really just backing yourself and thinking about all of the training that you've done and the hours that you've spent rhinestoning and just really using that to reassure yourself that you are supposed to be here because you love it.
yeah, absolutely. God, it's yeah. I'm sorry. I feel like I've given you so many compliments in this episode, but I'm like, it just it it literally. I swear I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, but like it literally blows my mind that you could ever have imposter syndrome. Like it's just wild to me.
I think everybody, it's like everyone experiences it. And I think it can be a bit of like a unifying thing for all of us.
Mm.
It's just a very human level of vulnerability when, you know, we're naked on a stage,
Yeah.
producing stuff to songs that we love and taking inspiration from things that inspire us. And it's a deeply personal thing. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's wild. And I think everybody gets it. And I think, yeah, just backing yourself,
I
I
love
think is
that.
super important.
And I think that's a really empowering thing as well. It's like even like the best, they feel like, they get imposter syndrome sometimes and they get nervous. It's like yeah, it's reassuring to know it's like, okay, this isn't just me, this is everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And it becomes a lot less isolating. And you can lean into your community then because you're all identifying with these really similar emotions.
Oh, that's gorgeous. So how have you been getting ready for MX Burlesque?
Oh, slowly. I think my the way my brain works is because we've had so much time to prep. Like a lot of my best work really comes out at the end. Like when I
Mm-mm.
have that time pressure, when I have that kind of fire up my ass to get things done. It's a very typical ADHD brain. It's like, oh, I have all this time. And then suddenly it's a month before, and you're like, wow, I really need to get moving.
Yeah.
Um, I think my prep has been around, I've added a new apparatus that I'm learning on. Um,
Oh.
and just really getting the chair skills down and solid. So a lot of it is kind of like the functional stuff is
Mm,
part of my prep, like the kind of the physical training.
mm.
Um, and then obviously working on the costumes. And then I've only just nailed down my songs now.
Uh-huh.
So then kind of the building will kind of start from here. But I don't want to say it's last minute because I just think that that's a bit hectic. but I do work a little bit slower. And yeah, I do find my best work comes out at the end. So yeah, how's my prep going? It's going, but it's slow.
Is like check back. I'll check back with you in like a month or so, and we'll be like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of training happening, and yeah, I think it's just kind of
yeah,
building the character and the performances from there.
hell yeah, that's super exciting. All right, well, we're coming towards the end of the interview, so thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
So before we go, I like to ask all of my guests to put a spotlight on somebody else in the scene right now who's doing something amazing. Is there anyone that you would like to spotlight?
Well, I think leading back into what we were just talking about um, I guess, imposter syndrome and backing yourself. And there's a performer named Lily Leroy who has made a few posts recently reflecting on imposter syndrome and belonging and that have really resonated with me. And I find that her everything that she posts is just so it's just so like exactly who she is, and it's extremely authentic, and it's like a real like she's got so much character on
Hmm.
stage, and you can tell that she really loves and adores what she does and has so much passion. And even though we haven't met in person, the social media presence that she has, I can feel it, and
Oh.
I really appreciate that. So yeah, I would say keep an eye out for Lily. She's great.
That's beautiful. That's something I love about the burlesque community as well, is that you can like, feel like you've made friends even just through following someone on Instagram. You really like
Yeah,
connect with
I
someone.
know. I know there's a lot of that kind of interstate. And then when you finally do go interstate, you're like, oh, I feel like I know you already.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, that's just you. I know you.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. Well, it's the end of the interview. So I've got to ask you, what are you currently working on right now aside from MX? Are there any shows that we can catch you in?
So I think by the time that this comes out, my next few shows are going to be done, and then it's pretty much going to be head down, bum up, literally for MX prep. But I'm going to be in MX Show Babe on the 27th of October.
Very exciting.
Um, and then I'm also taking part in DS Spice's fundraiser show Axis, and that's on the 3rd of November. Um, so yeah, they're my two for the next kind of month and a bit, and then yeah, it's MX prep from there.
Hell yeah. So what's your Instagram if people want to see more of you?
So it's oh my god, I feel like I need to check this. Um, let me just open up my phone and make sure I get the right handle. So it's Miss full stop
Uh-huh.
Scarlett with two T's black.
Perfect. I love that. I love getting the handle correct because I know that,
Yeah,
we
I
have
was
to
like,
like
oh my god.
there's a full stop and there's two underscores and like, yeah. I know that
Yeah,
feel.
exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me this morning, Scarlett. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you, Daisy. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, That's awesome. And I hope that you have the best time with all of your prep for MX. I can't wait to see what you do.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yay. See you.
See you. Bye.